You can't just throw an AI at it and go, tell me the best price.
Yeah.
You have to bring in your human intelligence. Don't fall for hype. Start with an actual business problem that you have a reasonable understanding of and where automating would make a better experience or a better product. Because we're not replacing humans. We're actually just giving them another tool to make them better at their job, because you still need a human.
Life is an endless stream of challenges, but no worries. Manuj is bringing the world's best minds right here for you.
My gosh, Manuj, you just blew my mind.
Thank you, universe. Manuj, thank you.
I'm so grateful.
It makes me feel a bit better.
Thank you.
Bootstrapping your dreams is here to give you what you need to succeed.
Hello and welcome to this new episode of Bootstrapping Your Dreams Show. I'm your host Manuj Aggarwal, and today we'll be talking with Colin Priest. So Colin is a sought-after public speaker, thought leader, and a firm believer in database decision-making and applying automation to improve customer experience. With more than 3 decades of experience in financial services, Colin has held a number of C-suite roles where he has championed data science initiatives in banking, FinTech, insurance, risk management, and marketing. Colin is the VP AI strategy for DataRobot, where he advises businesses on how to optimize their business operations using AI and manage data science projects. DataRobot is headquartered in Boston, Massachusetts, and has 10 office locations across 6 countries. DataRobot's enterprise platforms are used by Kroger, Humana, US Bank, Reckitt, Benkister, Australian Red Cross Blood Service, Boston Red Sox, LendingTree, University of Michigan, and a whole bunch more. Their platform helped Steward Health save $18 million, and their platform also helped a global bank financial services firm realize a 304% return on investment that amounted to about $33 million. Colin is passionate about how humans and AI can work together and is an advisor to the Singapore government on AI ethics, AI governance, and the future of work. Colin is passionate about the science of healthcare and does pro bono work to support cancer research. Welcome, Colin.
Thank you, Manuj. Thank you for inviting me.
Yeah, you're most welcome. So you're doing some really interesting work in the AI space. First of all, let's get to know you. How did you get into this? What was your journey like in your career up to this point?
I started in this when it wasn't called AI or data science, and it wasn't sexy. So in the mid-90s, I was looking after the pricing for an insurance company. And I would go into management meetings, and every meeting would get hijacked by the marketing guy. And because sales weren't up to budget, and he'd blame me. The prices are too high. And I knew they weren't, but I was not as convincing as the marketing guy, because that's what his specialty is, being convincing. Yeah. And after a particularly bad meeting, I went back to my office and I slammed the door. Grumble, grumble, grumble. And I'd been reading Sun Tzu, The Art of War. Mm-hmm. Don't let your enemy choose the battleground. And I'd let the marketing guy choose the battleground, which was how good can you talk and be convincing even when you're talking nonsense. Mm-hmm. And that's not my specialty. And my specialty is being objective and using data. And I sat there and I go, well, what can I do? And I figured out how to start measuring price elasticity on the products. There was some data that only just started becoming available. We changed our processes. And so I sat there and I worked out how to do that, and I started doing it. And the next meeting I turned up, and the marketing manager's there, and he does his normal thing. Colin, you've set the prices too high. That's why the sales are down. And I pulled out the data. And that was my start, because all of a sudden I turned the conversation into what do the facts say, not who is most convincing. Yeah. And that was just not stopping after that. Then I extended gradually over time to more and more things. Initially, I stepped into things I already sort of understood, like pricing. But then I got into marketing. Are we marketing the right products to the right people? I got into some operational things. I then get completely out of the industry and did things in telco, in healthcare, in banking. And after a while, it just sort of starts to coalesce into, it's now the same thing. It just happens to be different particular use cases. And I haven't looked back since then. And now, thank goodness, in the last decade, it's become sexy. Although
That's
my
awesome.
wife would tell you that is not true.
All right, that's a talk for another day. Now, I have been in this field as well, and I'm fascinated by it. Through my work, I got to work on some amazing AI-related projects. I got 4 patents to my name. So a lot of people ask me, what does it all mean? Like, AI, and there are so many terms: machine learning, AI, data science. Can you help us unpack these terms for a layperson who's not a geek like you and I? What do these terms mean, and how do they apply in different business scenarios?
We love our buzzwords. It makes us feel extra important if we could say something that sounds sexy and no one understands.
Yeah.
But here's the trick. They're just buzzwords. The ideas are really simple. So let's start. Data science. Data science is how do you manipulate data to make better decisions? That's it. And it's been around for ages before it was called data science.
Yeah.
The next one along, machine learning. Sounds very fancy, doesn't it? All it means is that instead of humans sitting around and defining lots of rules, coding them into software, it's the way most software has been done for a long time, you give the computer some examples with the correct answer, and you get it to figure out for itself how to get from the inputs to the outputs. Machine learning. Finally, artificial intelligence. There's a lot of people that haven't separated the science fiction from the fact. I had someone ask me just several months ago, when we get these autonomous cars, will I have to negotiate with my car about where we're going? No more than you would now. Artificial intelligence is merely a computer doing something that historically required human intelligence. Now, that doesn't mean it has human intelligence. It is not. What we have in the current generation is narrow intelligence. You can train computers to do a very narrow task under certain controlled conditions. That's what we do. And most modern artificial intelligence is powered by machine learning, which I was just talking about. Because it's not intelligent if it never learns. You have to just keep giving it rules. That's not human. That's not intelligent.
Yeah, exactly.
All very simple in the end.
Yeah. I mean, as you know, when you go into a field, it becomes simple. But when you're looking at it from outside, it's all very mystified and complicated. And
we like to keep it mystical because that makes us feel like everyone else is a muggle. We're magic.
Yeah, that's for sure. All right, so let's dive a little bit deeper now. We defined AI, we defined data science, defined machine learning, and you started the conversation by saying, okay, we can use all these technologies to figure out the best pricing for the product, and this is where our entrepreneurial audience will really like to understand. Okay, pricing is something we have learned in basic economics is like supply and demand. So can you tell us how we can apply data science to optimize the price such that we get the best best demand for the product or service, and we get the best price so that we have more profitability?
Yeah. It doesn't happen by magic, I'm telling you. You can't just throw an AI at it and go, tell me the best price.
Yeah.
You have to bring in your human intelligence. The best solutions are a combination of the two. And what you'll do is, how could I run an experiment that would create data that would teach how people react to different prices? And you're going to have to do A/B testing, or sometimes there's some natural experiments existed. That's in fact how I started out. It just so happened we had, by accident, created the right conditions. But usually what you do, and you'll see this in supermarkets all the time. Supermarkets have this week's discount. You think they're looking after you. They're not. They're measuring your reaction to different prices. And by varying the prices at different times and different amounts, they can start to learn how you react to different prices. And then it comes back to some basic microeconomics. You've got a fixed cost, you've got some variable costs, you now know the change in demand. What's the optimal price that achieves what your goal is? Whether your goal be total dollar profit or it be maximum profit subject to not selling less. It depends on your business goals. You can make that more intelligent by bringing in, once again, your human knowledge. You'll find different products have different price elasticity. You'll find that the description of the product, the location of the product, how you advertise it will affect all of this. You need to bring this in and then let the computer do the boring hard stuff, which is the calculations.
So very interesting, and it just brings me some memories of some fun things that we were doing. And one of the major sort of, you can call it hurdles, or you can call it the first prerequisites of data science or AI, is collecting huge amounts of data, right? That is where I've gotten into some discussions with business folks, and they, oh, can you not just use the algorithm to figure it out? And I'm like, okay, you need historical data for the machine to learn what the heck is going on, right? So what is your take on things? Do people, like specifically C-suite executives and decision makers, how much do they understand about like how this thing works and how we collect historical data and then we make decisions for the future? Like, what is your take on that?
I think at the moment there are a lot of people in the C-suite who are confused and are honest about being confused. They've heard the buzzwords. Worse still, they've heard the hype. Every AI startup, you listen to what they say they do, and it's like, there is no way they actually do that. That's science fiction. And so the C-suite's quite honestly going, well, what's real, what's not, what's practical, and what's not. Unfortunately, most of their contact is with salespeople. And we all know that salespeople tend to overstate what can be done. I started 2 years ago running workshops for C-suite. And answering the basic questions that they're asking. The first you've already asked, what do these buzzwords mean? What the hell does this mean? And how is that relevant to me? So that's the first thing I answer. I have, here's the standard buzzwords and here's how much hype there is. Whenever you hear this, don't accept it. The next thing is, how do you determine what AI could do for you and what it could not do for you? Because that's what matters. Ignore all the technical stuff about algorithms and hyperparameter tuning. Who cares? Is in the end. That's just how you got there. What matters is what you deliver. And so I give them a framework for how you can estimate the benefit and how you can estimate the complexity. Because don't waste time on stuff that doesn't have much benefit, and don't waste time on stuff that's too complex, because it'll fail, particularly when you're starting out. So we tell them, you want to identify a use case? Begin with a business problem, not with a technology. Stop letting the tail wag the dog. And we talk about that. Do you have frictions in your customer experience? Are you trying to push the wrong products? For instance, last year, I got all these ads for shampoo. And it's like, come on, guys. And this was on Facebook. And every time I'd go, no, not relevant. All they would do was just try and advertise a different brand of shampoo. I finally blocked all those. And you know what happened next? They started advertising hair extensions. People worry about Facebook tracking you and knowing all about you. I couldn't even convince them that I was bald.
Oh, that's funny.
And there are frictions in customer experiences, and COVID has exposed them. And I think that's the best place to start, because it's win-win. You are helping customers more, and they're coming to you more because you're giving them a better experience, a better product. So that's where I often start people. Or where is it that you have complex processes that could be tuned in a manufacturer? Long production line, but with sensors along the way. And it changes with environment. For example, water treatment works, wastewater. It's actually quite complex. It's like a production line. In comes the wastewater, and about a day later, clean water comes out the other end. But in between, there's so much that changes, and you want to tune. You don't want dirty water coming out the end, for example. Hell no, because you're going to get in trouble. Plus, you don't want to pollute. On the other hand, you don't want to over clean the water. Then you're wasting resources. And it all depends on the heat, the amount of sunshine, the amount of wind, the how much rain and runoff is coming through in the wastewater. And you need to react to that. And AI is perfect for that sort of thing. There's just so many things, but just what I teach them is begin small. Don't do big bang. Don't fall for hype. Start with an actual business problem that you have a reasonable understanding of, and where automating would make a better experience or a better product.
Yeah, no, that's well said. Now let's talk about, again, about data. Like one of the funny things that that I learned going through these projects was most of the time is spent in AI projects in collecting data, cleaning data, collating data. And the executives are like, what the hell is going on? Like, it's been like weeks. You guys have not done anything but collect data. Like, what are you looking at? All these numbers floating around. What is going on? So, what is your take on that?
I keep hearing these stories that 80% of my time is spent on cleaning data or preparing data. I've yet to see anyone measure that, by the way. I think it's a bit of an urban myth. That 80 could be anything. It could be higher, could be lower.
And it feels like that for sure.
Oh, it feels like 120%. I was recently working on some American data about COVID cases. It just astounds me how many different ways Americans can prepare that data across the geographies of America. Everyone does it differently, and that makes it difficult. So you're asking about huge amounts of data. You can cut that back by running the experiments I was talking. This is how science got developed. If you structure the way you do things in the right way, you make it easier to do the sexy stuff. But people want to jump straight to the sexy stuff. You can't do that without a basic foundation. And so someone was asking me on LinkedIn the other day, how do you convince a business to stop creating bad data and to put some controls around it? And I said, they don't care about that stuff. But there's so much money to be in that. And I go, yes, but they don't care. What they care about is the result. So instead of just rushing to the result, you should also, as a data scientist, tell them, how could you change the data collection processes to make this work better next time? Just some basic data validation would be great. I don't know how many 120-year-olds I've seen this year, and there'll be 121 next year because they're born in the year zero, and the system thinks year zero is 1900. I did something, I'm based in Asia, in Singapore. I did something for an insurance company. I found more than a dozen different ways they'd spelled Toyota. But why was it a free-form field? It should just be a drop-down. And it's nice and clean. It's simple stuff like that. But it's hard to convince the business guys to spend money on that boring stuff when they just want to spend it on sexy. We have to make it clearer that they're linked together. You wouldn't give your kid at school a textbook from the year 1900. You make sure they got the most modern teaching methods, the most modern textbooks. It's the same with your AIs and with your data.
Yeah, that's true. And as these large corporations like Facebook and Google, they have demonstrated, if you use the data correctly, it could be worth billions and billions of dollars, right?
But you don't need big data to start. Start with a simpler problem. The simpler the problem, the less data you need.
You are listening to Bootstrapping Your Dreams Show with Manuj Aggarwal. Businesses face numerous challenges like finding the right product market fit, determining the market size, implementing a winning go-to-market strategy, crafting customer-centric USP, comparative analysis, looking for funding, building up cash flow, and profitability. We have made a lot of free resources available to the entrepreneurial community, including this podcast. We invite you to check out our websites and follow us on social channels. The links are in the show notes. We hope you find the resources useful and utilize them to grow your business. We also have some programs for entrepreneurs. If you find our content useful, then you will definitely find the programs outstanding. So do check them out. Now let's dive into another field where AI is also most people think AI is more about numbers and just crunching numbers, but AI is getting into more humanistic fields like computer vision and recognizing the audio, and in some cases AI is even composing music and art and whatnot. So tell us a little bit about that. What are the possibilities of AI actually breaking into these fields which are more closer to humans, that they can understand, they can talk to AI, they can feel it and touch it and all that.
I first got involved in visual AI more than 15 years ago. Back in the olden days when it was difficult. There's standard libraries now that just make it so much easier. I reviewed an old project and said, I wondered, could I build it in the latest technology? And something that took me 2 years to build originally took me about 2 hours to build with the latest technology. We've made it so easy to do it now. And I love the possibilities here. I've been involved, for instance, in some of my pro bono work in healthcare, looking at health screens. So where they're taking an image, whether that be an MRI or an X-ray, so that we could add a second opinion to the radiologist on whether someone has cancer or not, or we could discover it earlier. And that's the sort of stuff I love, because we're not replacing humans. We're actually just giving them another tool to make them better at their job, because you still need a human. Similarly, I did some stuff that was about measuring the left ventricle volume in your heart as it beats. And I went to see one of the local gurus of that in Singapore. And he told me that these highly trained heart specialists literally get the scans and draw around the edge and measure the size physically. And it takes them 30 minutes to 45 minutes just to do this ridiculous manual task. And these people took more than 10 years to train up, and they're drawing pictures. They're excited about AI because we want to free up the humans from this stuff to do the human stuff. And that excites me. And the fact that you can just give it to a computer and get an answer in just 1 or 2 seconds that is more accurate and reliable than the human means that we're making the world a better place as well.
For sure. Yeah, I mean, I recall working on a computer vision project where we had trained physicians and medical doctors, and the diagnosis produced by the machine was more accurate than these experienced human beings. I was blown away by the power of these things.
And some of the research shows that the best solution is to have both. Use it as a second opinion. After that, then sometimes prompt the human to go back and look again, because the computer will miss things that the human got, and vice versa.
Yeah, for sure. So bringing it back now to once again, this notion that AI can take over. It can become like a Terminator kind of a thing where it can destroy humans, or basically just take over the human race. What are the possibilities of that, in your opinion?
I'm not at that end of the scale. I'm rather old, and I remember at school when I was young, so we're talking definitely last century, and a fair way back in that century. And the teacher asked us, we're all about 7 or 8 years old, what do you want to be when you grow up? And then someone had obviously had a scare story, and they're going, all these jobs won't exist because computers will take them over. So we're talking in the 1970s, someone was saying this. And for the next decade, that was the standard stories. Computers are going to put everybody out of jobs. Did that happen? Well, just look at banks. Banks use tons of computers now. They have ATMs.
Yeah.
Banks actually have more staff now than back then.
Wow.
I don't think, so just start with the simple destruction, that AI taking away all human jobs, hell no. It's not going to happen. It's never happened in the past. There's no reason to believe it will happen now because humans still have a strength.
Yeah.
Now, as for them taking over the world, that's also not going to happen because here's the really important thing I didn't put in my definition about AI. It is just a computer system, a tool to do what you tell it to do.
Yeah.
It is not autonomous. I keep using that. Marketing and sales guys love that word autonomous. It is not autonomous. It does what you tell it to. And when it doesn't, it's because it's broken and it's not doing anything useful. It's same as your car goes where you tell it to. That was gonna cause all sorts of destruction when cars first came out. You had to have someone running in front of the car with a red flag going, here comes a car coming through. Did it destroy the world? No. Well, unless we talk global warming. No. We keep getting worried, but the trick is make sure humans are controlling what goes on.
Plus, to add to that, I wonder, I haven't heard of an AI system which is working on sort of ambition or those type of qualities which will enable AI to take over. Think about, I should take over this world.
Unless you give it that as a goal, it's not going to do it.
Exactly.
Computers are quite literal, though. You give it a goal, by the way, and just like some people, if you give it the wrong goal, it will go and solve that wrong goal. And we've seen that already happening in healthcare, for example, where the goal was to reduce expenses. So that's exactly, and that's what they thought because they got a fixed budget. Can we get some costs down so we can give more healthcare? Unfortunately, the way it did that was by reducing healthcare and making it less available to the people who needed it the most, particularly people from particular races and underprivileged socioeconomic backgrounds. It did exactly what it was told. Unfortunately, it was told to do the wrong thing.
Wow. All right. And now, another angle is the pandemic, and we are under lockdown, and the work environment is changing. We are working from home. Before the interview started, we were actually talking about your nice little background, which is very clean and not typical of Zoom. So, going through this experience, how do you think the role of AI will accelerate the adoption of digitization or remote work or anything like that? How has this experience in 2020 changed the trajectory of AI and its adoption?
Oh, very much so. Is that everyone's seen that cartoon out there? What's driving a digital transformation? The CEO, the CIO, or COVID? I've been talking to companies for years, and they keep saying, "Oh yeah, we're going to do digital transformation. We're going to do it." Every year I go back, "Yes, we're going to do it." All of a sudden, they got caught out. And now they really are facing the consequences of their inaction. And so they're starting to do stuff. Even the slowest organizations I deal with now have a roadmap. They should have done this 6 months ago, but at least now they've got the money and the roadmap, and they're starting to build some solutions. The really good ones, though, were able to react in weeks, not in years. The exceptional ones were already prepared. I mostly work from home. That's why I got a virtual background to hide all the mess in my home office. I love this software I'm using, which is pretty damn good. It's already had 2 upgrades this year that improve the quality considerably and make me look considerably more professional in a COVID environment. We're seeing organizations that have realized that you can't use face-to-face meetings and paper with physically signing paper when there are COVID restrictions and social distancing. So AI plus digital is just a natural fit. The digital means you've got more data for AI, and the AI makes it possible to do more digital. Because in the past for digital, you needed to come up with rules. Try and do rules to get the background out of my image here. That's
Yeah.
not going to work. Anything complex, anything that rapidly changes, which is this year,
Yeah.
you need AI.
For sure, for sure. No, that's for sure. And now, a lot of people, as you said, they have been just caught off guard by this situation. Do you think, in your opinion, what does the C-suite executives and people in general may have to unlearn about the future of work, about how they use technology or how they even look upon technology? Because let's face it, if this pandemic hit in 1970s or even 1990s, the world would have been shut down. Like no electricity, no water, no nothing. But due to technology, the world didn't miss a beat, although certain parts of the economy suffered greatly, but still we are able to carry on with our lives just because of technology. So people have learned a big lesson, right? People who were scared of using computers, they are adopting computers, but some of the things we have to unlearn as well, like so what is your opinion about that? What kind of new paradigms the C-suite executives will need to learn now that we have adopted this change? And I think that may be another question, a follow-up question about what is the future of work according to you. But for now, like, what do we have to unlearn as a result of this?
Okay, so I'm going to start with two that are just flip sides of the same coin, which is what your customers want and what they'll accept. So one of the things we have to unlearn, oh, someone wrote a nice comment. One of the things we're going to have to unlearn is that AI is there to replace human staff. There is that belief in many spaces, some at the exec level and some by the staff who are worried about losing their jobs. There is a ton of research showing that you destroy your brand value if you have no human face and no way for customers to interact with humans.
For sure.
So we're going to have to unlearn that AI is going to do everything, because as humans, we are hardwired for human connection, particularly when we're emotional or confused.
Sure.
So the flip side of that is people that think that you must have humans. You don't need anything newer. People are happy meeting face to face. Here in Asia, that's a common belief. And Asia was a laggard in digital. They love their face-to-face meetings. They love pieces of paper that have a signature on it. When I first moved here, why does everything need a signature? It's but Asia has had probably the biggest transformation due to COVID. And all of a sudden, people are now comfortable with video conferences, with apps, with chatbots. All of a sudden, they've realized that for normal transactional stuff, not when I'm confused, not when something's broken, normal transactional stuff, people actually prefer digital. I do most of my banking digital because it's transactional. I don't want to go and see a damn human. I don't want to travel to a bank branch. I don't want to queue up. And people are seeing that in broader spaces than banking now. So there's those two sides of the coin, which is when should your customers see a human and when should they not?
That's a very good insight.
And the next one is magical thinking. We touched on that before. That they think because it's AI, you can just throw it at something without ever training it. And just somehow it's going to do magic. Here's my pool of data. Give it to the AI and tell it to find something interesting for me. I don't know.
I've heard that before. I have heard that before many times.
Not how it works. So I think that's sort of the biggest things. And there's a lot of human AI interaction stuff that people have to unlearn as well. Is AI inherently biased? Yes, but so are humans, but more so. We worry about the AI bias when in fact it's easier to reduce bias in an AI than in a human.
That's true. And as you said, our bias gets into the AI because we are the one training it. So whatever bias is.
Mathematically, it is impossible to have any decision-making process, whether human, machine, or in nature, that is not biased.
Yeah.
Because there's multiple measures of bias, and they are mathematically inconsistent with one another. You get rid of one, it means you must have the other.
Yeah.
So that's another thing to unlearn, that you can get rid of bias. No, you can't. What you can do is prioritize what to get rid of.
Yeah. These are very good insights. Like I really like the way that you combine computer science, AI with the human element, because most technologists that I come across in my line of work, they are very much focused on the technology, but they don't really care about how the humans, what is the emotional impact, what do we want out of this system. But
that's
you
something you need to unlearn. You
Yeah,
cannot develop technology in a vacuum away from humans.
Exactly.
It is there to serve us, not to exist independently of us.
Yeah, for sure. Now, one of the last questions. So, what do you think will be the future of work here now? Like, remote work, obviously, I think it'll stay. Well, what kind of other things you can foresee as, that will change how we think about work these days?
What we're going to see is pretty much the end of most stuff that was a mid-20th century clerical job.
I see.
Anything that is process driven is just prime territory to automate. You maybe, what are people going to do? Well, if they don't do that, they're going to do something considerably more human. At the beginning of the 20th century, what are all these farmers going to do if we automate farming? Well, they're going to do more interesting stuff. And the thing I like to bring in is a basic economic concept that's been around for hundreds of years called comparative advantage. What are humans stronger at than machines? Now, it turns out that that's things like empathy, creative problem solving, general knowledge, and common sense. Those type and engagement and inspiring people. Those are the things that we're better at and will always be comparatively better at than machines. They also happen to be the things we love doing. So I'm actually positive about the future of work, in that it's going to make our work lives more human and make us more valuable as a human.
I completely agree.
Instead of being scared, we do need, though, to be careful that we don't let things turn into a factory and forget the human side, which is one of the reasons I keep emphasizing this. This can be a win-win for everyone.
I completely agree with you. I mean, it's funny how, you said exactly the same thing: empathy and creativity and expression and companionship. These are the things that machines cannot provide. And I think the professions, even if they don't exist today, we will find those professions more satisfying and just fulfilling, right?
Even just like AI ethicist, that job did not exist 10 years ago, but it is becoming increasingly important. Why? Because machines have no inherent concept of right and wrong. Humans are the ones that need to set the values that a system must operate within. Human society and human individuals and organizations. We are born with a conscience. We have an inherent idea of what is right and wrong. And after a couple of decades of getting through education and living our lives, we have an even better idea of what is acceptable and what is not.
That's great. Well, thank you so much. This was very interesting. I geeked out a lot because I love this stuff, and I think you put it very nicely for everybody to understand whether they do have a science background, technology background or not. So thanks so much for coming onto the show, helping us understand this whole world of AI and sharing your vision about what the future holds. That was really refreshing and entertaining. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Manuj. As you might have noticed, I'm passionate about this stuff. I love talking about what's truly important here.
Yeah, for sure. And so, if somebody wants to reach out to you, connect with you, how can they connect with you?
You can find me on LinkedIn. There aren't that many Colin Priests in the world. And my picture is there. So just remember to look for the Colin Priest with no hair. Pretty easy to find me there.
Awesome.
You can read some of my blogs on the Data War Robot website. You could read some of my personal blogs on my personal website, www.colinpriest.com, although those ones are boring technical stuff, I have to say.
All right, no problem. We'll add those links regardless, and if somebody wants to geek out, they can do that.
Yeah, thank you.
Awesome. Thank you so much. Thank you.
Thank Manuj. Bye.
Bye.
Hey, I'm Sarah, producer of the Bootstrapping Your Dreams show. This episode has come to an end. Don't forget to check out the episode show notes for the links to the resources mentioned in this episode. Thanks for tuning in. Until the next episode, goodbye. Keep going and keep winning.